Hooray and hallelujah. A new episode of Rhodes Smart Camp is here. First of all, let me say that I pray every day. And every day my prayer is the same. I ask, God, please make me less of an asshole. Because there's a modern epidemic of assholishness that has swept the nation and also swept the earth. So, a lot of people know me for being kind, but, I get irritated. I hold grudges. I get angry like anybody. But, I liked my last girlfriend told me she thought that my kindness was my most attractive trait. So we'll come back to that later. I just got back from a weekend in Dallas, Texas. Oh my God, Texas has been so good to me through the years, and I've got so many great friends there. I mean, I just absolutely love Texas, and that cowboy shit is sexy. It's really been great to me in my career and all these cities. I've just got booked for next April. I'm going to go back to the Moon Tower Comedy Festival in Austin, which is like the biggest festival in North America, comedy festival in the United States anyway. And it's great. Yeah, I'm doing the festival for like 4 or 5 nights, and the woman who books it said that there's one venue where every night they're having someone do a one-man show. And she wants me to do a one-man show. She said, Tom, you've got so much wisdom and knowledge of traveling the earth, and I want to see what you can do with an hour-plus theater show. So that's great. So I haven't thought in those terms since I did the Edinburgh Festival 10 years ago? Yeah, 11 years ago. And so that's exciting, and I'll be putting that together from now until then. And hopefully doing some test runs. If you think there is some powerful Tom Rhodes story that I should include, please send me a message and let me know. Because, our story is the greatest gift that we have to give. Blah-de-de-blah. So, I really want to rock the balls off of that one-man show. And really looking forward to going back to Austin. So let's talk about Texas. Here's some interesting facts about Texas. Texas is the only state to have joined the U.S. as a nation via treaty. So Texas was its own nation, and so they joined the United States through a treaty. They have the highest legal speed limit in the U.S., 85 miles an hour on the highways. Also, Montana has 85 miles an hour. That's always nice when you see that, because when you're used to driving 55 or 65 in California on the highways, and then you see that 85 sign, boy, that feels good mashing down the gas. I'm sure I've mentioned how much I've got a lead foot. I went to France a few years ago, and I rented a car to go to Giverny, to go to Monet's Gardens, and then to the Van Gogh's grave, and then to Mont Saint-Michel. It was like a week where I rented a car and drove around France, and I thought the people on the highway drove really slow. And I'd be passing like 5 cars at a time. And every time I'd pass like a big long line of cars, I would say to myself, this is how we do it in California, baby. And then when I got home, I had 5 speeding tickets waiting for me. What a moron. Because they have speed cameras. That's why people are driving so slow on the highway. I much prefer the United States way of, if you don't get caught, you can get away with it. That's nicer. Okay, other fun facts about Texas. Texas is the birthplace of Dr. Pepper. It's interesting. I've mentioned before how TikTok has me figured out. It'll show, when I go on TikTok, it'll show me classic boxing. It'll show me scenes from Pulp Fiction or Scarface, but also a lot of classic cowboy movies. Like Tombstone always pops up. And that's one thing, like Texas, it's that cowboy culture and gun culture. And, I always thought it was cool when you see like cowboys twirling their pistols on their fingers. That's like the coolest move ever. I guess you got to put the gun latch on safety in order to spin a gun like that without killing yourself or others. But then there's that famous scene in Tombstone where the guy's confronting Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday in the casino, and he's spinning his, what was his name, Johnny Ringo, some shit like that. He's spinning his pistols to show what a badass he is, and then the drunken Doc Holliday, played by Val Kilmer, spins his little lead cup that he drinks his booze out of, and everybody has a good chuckle. So but we even, I don't own a gun, but I have cap pistols, and even when I was a little kid, I would always, you do that pistol twirl, and then you like put the guns in your holster. That's just like, that's the coolest move ever. I don't know if it originated in Texas or wherever, but pistol twirls are pretty damn cool. So that's what I was going to say. So TikTok also, it's remarkable. It will show me, oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. What was his, Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey, my dad always listened to AM news radio. And whatever it was, like back in the old days, we're talking 30, 40 years ago, there was this guy, Paul Harvey. I think he was based out of Chicago, but he was like from Iowa, some real country homespun guy. And he had this regular daily radio segment called The Rest of the Story, where you would, it was great the way the stories were told. He would give you this piece of information at the beginning, and then at the end he would reveal who he was talking about. And it was always like just fascinating stories of triumph or overcoming some bullshit. And, I used to listen to that with my dad. So how does TikTok know that I would like to hear these old Paul Harvey clips? So anyway, it's on there. I follow it. I love it. And there was one that popped up a few months ago, and it was about this guy. He went to medical school. He was a young guy, and he was working, I guess, doing a residency or some kind of apprenticeship under a doctor. And I believe it was in South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. It was like South Carolina or Georgia, perhaps. But this young, earnest guy, and he wants to be a doctor, and then he's, he went to medical school, graduated, and then he's working underneath this older professional doctor who he's learning from, and that older doctor had a daughter who was about this guy's age, and the guy falls in love with the daughter, and he's out of his mind with love, and finally, I think he asked the woman to marry him, or he goes to the father, and this guy who he feels is almost like a father figure to him, who's helping him in this medical industry to learn to be a doctor. And the guy's already graduated from medical school and done a lot of great human achievements. So he asked the doctor for his daughter's hand in marriage, and the doctor said no. He said that you're not good enough for my daughter. And this just absolutely destroyed this guy. He was so heartbroken. He leaves working for this dude. He leaves South Carolina. The guy moves to Waco, Texas, and becomes a very successful doctor. And somewhere in his life, doing some kind of experimentation or mixing with concoctions, this guy who was rejected in South Carolina invents Dr. Pepper soda. and he named Dr. Pepper after the doctor who he had worked under, who rejected him and told him that he wasn't good enough for his daughter. The man who rejected him's name was Dr. Pepper. And now you know the rest of the story. That's the way Paul Harvey would tell these stories. But it's kind of mind-blowing that the guy named... I mean, that Dr. Pepper's so delicious, you could have named it, Stinky Butthole Juice, and people still would have loved it. But it's interesting factoid that the man named the beverage after the guy who had rejected him and basically, broke his heart. Anyway, hooray for Waco, Texas. And Texas invented the frozen margarita machine. Texas has the world's largest rose garden in Tyler, Texas. And Texas is one of the few states with its own Pledge of Allegiance. Culture inventions. Okay, whatever. Don't mess with Texas. That's actually a slogan, was an anti-littering campaign where they were saying don't mess with Texas by throwing trash on the ground, which is interesting because that's something that will come up later in this episode, and also dealing with assholishness and trying to remain a kind, good person. So I just talked to my mom. My mom's having a minor little crisis. She's very unhappy with where she lives. It's an old home with bad everything. Bad plumbing, bad electricity. I feel mildly guilty that I'm not more successful, that I can't buy my mom a home. That's always been my dream. But now basically we are just trying to find her a new home. And she wants to stay in Mount Dora because she loves her church and, all that good stuff. But I talk to my mom every day, and she's so adorable. My brain is leading to her because I was saying how TikTok has me figured out. My mom only watches YouTube. Well, she watches Joseph Prince. We both have Roku. And my mom has the Joseph Prince app, channel, whatever it is. She watches Joseph Prince every day. He is a Christian preacher based in Singapore. I've talked about him in the past, but he is my mom's Justin Bieber, or she just loves the guy. So she also only watches YouTube, but I think that I read somewhere that now most people watch YouTube more than they watch actual television or even the streaming platforms. That YouTube is the spot now. So my mom's algorithm gives her, hard alt-right news. She's always worried about, something's always putting a bee in her bonnet. And I've tried to, I've almost eliminated the news from my life. I canceled the Sirius XM in my car, and I used to just drive around listening to BBC and the Canadian Broadcasting Channel. I've been listening to the Canadian news for the last few years. But anyway, I'll glance at the New York Times, and then basically I'm trying to keep that shit out of my life because the news isn't what it used to be. And I'm trying to get through life without having a bee in my bonnet. Anywho, so my mom's algorithms always shows her church stuff, sermons, religious stuff, alt-right stuff. But she's also gets, my mom's favorite movie is, why can't I think of it? It's one of the most famous movies of all time. Oh my God, I can't believe this. The 1939, the year my mom was, the Southern fucking classic. I can't believe I can't think of this movie. Gone with the Wind, for fuck's sake. Yeah, so my mom's favorite movie is Gone with the Wind. So she watched, some documentary popped up the other day, or yesterday. So I talked to her this morning, and she's telling me all about it, how, like, fascinating that, you know, like the Vivian Lee character that she plays, Scarlett O'Hara, everyone wanted that role, and all these famous actresses were up for it, and they chose Vivian Lee, who's a British actor. Then people were all upset about that, and that Clark Gable had bad breath, and because he had bad teeth, and he had really, really bad breath. So all the kissing scenes with him, Vivian Lee wanted to vomit. So my mom was just, you know, titillated to see all these things. I had done that knowledge nugget. My mom, she goes, oh, and she said the thing you did, the knowledge nugget a few years ago, was in there, where I talked about Hattie McDaniel. She plays the maid in Gone with the Wind. She has that famous line, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. She was the first black American actor to win the Academy Award. And they would not allow her at the Oscar ceremony. That's how racist the United States and Hollywood was back then. And Clark Gable and all these other famous movie stars at the time said that they were going to boycott the Academy Awards or would not go if she was not allowed to attend. So she had to sit at like a table by herself in the back of the room, Hattie McDaniel. She wins the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And I think her speech is on record as the shortest acceptance speech in the history of the Oscars. She said, I want to thank my fellow actors, and I hope that I've been a credit to my race. Or I think, or something like that. It's on YouTube. Or that I'll always be a credit to my race. Something like that. And then she just, it's a pretty remarkable story. And then the other remarkable thing about that movie, Gone with the Wind, when they did the premiere in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1939, they had this massive theater and this massive premiere, and before the film, they had some kind of pageant, and a young Martin Luther King Jr. played a slave. He was just a young boy at that time, and he was dressed up and played a slave child in whatever pre-movie production went on for the premiere of Gone with the Wind. And that's a pretty mind-blowing knowledge nugget. My good friend Tony Woods and I just did Budapest together, that Sziget Festival. And he mentioned that to me. And he's mentioned that to me a few times through the years about how just that blew him away when he saw the knowledge nugget video that I did, that Martin Luther King Jr. played a slave boy in the pre-production play or whatever before the premiere. Amazing. And the most interesting factoid I find about Texas is that Texas means friend. In whatever language of the original people who lived there that the now inhabitants of Texas murdered, in their language, Texas meant friend. I just picture them going, I'm your friend, as they're killing all of them. I'm your friend, dude. Don't hurt me. And after they killed him, they went, hey, that's a really great word. Let's name this place Texas. It means friend. And of course, Texas just redrew all the lines for voting districts, so Texas will always be Republican. So hey, there you go. But I don't know, because I'm staying away from the news, so I don't know much about that. Let's just move on. Anyway, I was at Dallas, the Hyenas in Dallas, at Mockingbird Station. And that place has been the scene of so many victories for me. I did the grand opening weekend of that club. The very first, it was Valentine's Day, 2012 was the grand opening. And I headlined it. And I've headlined that place a lot of times through the years. Mockingbird Station, it's across the street from SMU, Southern Methodist University. And, God, this just popped into my brain. You have TCU and SMU, Texas Christian University. They're the Horny Toads. I think those are the two big rivals. There was a book I read in the 80s called Life Its Own Self. It was about a football player at TCU, and I think he went pro. But I remember I really enjoyed the shit out of that book. I should try and find it. Life Its Own Self. Anywho, so... and Hyena's Comedy Club is also right next door to the Angelica Movie Theater, which is like the independent foreign movie theater of Dallas. And, God, I've seen some great films there through the years. So it's across the street from SMU, and then the Angelica Movie Theater's there. And then next door to that is a apartment building, and then there's a Kroger's grocery store. And there used to be a Dr. Pepper factory right there because they still have the big Dr. Pepper sign up. Isn't little trivia for you. Anywho, I remember that weekend I did the grand opening because Carl LeBeau's brother, had done the interior. I remember him hammering the carpet onto the stage, and Carl LeBeau was living there at the time. Carl LeBeau. One of the kindest, most funny human beings I've ever known. He died, 2021, 2022. Cancer came and hit him. You got to be grateful for every day. I've got a couple friends of mine right now, Corey in Minneapolis and Steve Eric in Florida. Both of them are dealing with serious medical issues. Any one of us can be taken out at any moment. So enjoy every day and keep my dear friends Steve and Corey in your hearts and in your prayers. Anywho, so it was really a great... When I go to Texas, it's always like a great boost for my confidence because I killed 3 out of the 4 shows. The 2 shows Friday, the first show Saturday. I just could do no wrong. I was fun, loose, silly, acted everything out. I really, had fun. Things were popping off the top of my head all over the place, and I couldn't have felt better. Then the late show on Saturday was a little stiff. Had to work my ass off, but, that happens out in Clubland, USA. Oh, and... I think Dallas, Texas has got some of the most beautiful women on the planet Earth. And they all seem to come to my show. I mean, beautiful of every flavor. Black, white, brown, every flavor of human. They've just, the most beautiful women are there. And, I had a nice thing happen. I told you that... TikTok video I did about how only women should own guns, or at the very least should be allowed to carry paintball guns. That clip went insane on TikTok. I got, so far now, it's 760,000 views. And for the very first time, there was a very attractive young Peruvian woman in the audience. And I got all excited when I asked, is there anyone from another country? And she said Peru. Because Peru is one of my favorite trips I ever took in my life, and I got to, tell my best stories of Peru on stage there, and the main, I did so many great things. Like in Peru, and my friend Ari Shafir, I did his You Be Trippin' podcast. I think my episode's going to come on in October, but he's going to South America for 6 months before he moves to England. And if the good Lord is willing, I'm going to try and meet him in Peru to go back to Machu Picchu. I'd love to see that once again in my life. So the nearest city to Machu Picchu is Cuzco. And that was the Rome of the Inca Empire. One of the best things I ever did, other than going to Machu Picchu, was I took the train from Cuzco to Puno. And it goes through the Andes, and there's herds of llama. And then you have backpacker class, which is exactly what it sounds. It's the cheapest way. And then there's all these backpackers all crammed in these cars with, their big backpacks on their laps and shit. But the last 2 or 3 cars on that train is the first class, which in Peru, first class is called the Inca class. And the caboose, the last train on the car, is a bar car. And then the very back piece was an open air banister balcony type thing. And I was still drinking at the time. I remember Pisco sours are the national drink of Peru. And I remember leaning against the back railing, sipping my Pisco sour, going through the Andes. One of the most breathtaking things I've ever done. So, but here's the story I told on stage to that woman. Puno is the biggest city on Lake Titicaca. And of course, at the edge of Lake Titicaca is a statue of Beavis and Butthead giggling uncontrollably because of the name Lake Titicaca. Anywho, so I was filming for the Dutch travel show, and our guide told us, so we took this boat for like 2 or 3 hours to on Lake Titicaca to Amintani Island. And there's no electricity. These are the direct descendants of the Incas. These people are living the way they were living thousands of years ago. So our guide told us that the people on that island do not have fruit. So we should bring them fruit. There was no hotels there. You stay with a family, and then they cook you meals and everything. And so I grew up in Florida, and we're in the markets, and I'm from Florida. I'm bringing a big bag of oranges. So when we got to Amintani Island, our host family was waiting for us on the dock, and we get off, and I step off with this big bag of oranges, and the mom didn't even say hello. She went straight for my bag of oranges, and she ripped it open, and then she started peeling off the orange peels and eating this orange. And I've been saying this for years. I want to live my life the way that woman ate that orange. I mean, you never seen someone make love to a piece of fruit the way that woman ate that orange. And she just, oh my God, she enjoyed every little wedge. And like, if there was a drop of orange juice going down her wrist, she licked it off. It was just pure beauty. Anyway, this young, attractive Peruvian woman, and she was with her mother-in-law. I talked to her after the show. Her husband is in the military. He's in the army, and he wasn't there, but she was with her sister-in-law and her mother-in-law, and she had brought this group of women out to see my show because she had seen that TikTok video about how only women should own guns. And that thrilled me unbelievably that, oh my God, I had an impact. Somebody actually saw something I did and liked it and bought a ticket to come and see me. Hooray for humanity, indeed. Okay, so here's my story about assholishness that I had to deal with. So last Friday morning, I had an early flight to Dallas from LAX, and I got I got to board the plane, early because of my status, and I got a window seat. I liked, my mom prefers the aisle seats because she doesn't want to ask anyone when she needs to go to the bathroom. And I was telling Mom, get a window. You can see just seeing the earth from a plane is a miracle. But also, if you need to sleep, then people aren't bumping into you. If you got the aisle seat, they come through with the cart, and then people go into the bathroom. Everybody's bumping into you. And I don't like the aisle. I prefer the window. So I have a window, and I'm trying to sleep. And this finally the last people on the plane board, and this guy, his girlfriend was on the aisle seat. This guy was about 25, shortish, kind of muscular, but during the flight, this guy, he puts his arm on my arm as if it was a piece of furniture. And I'm not taking up the whole armrest. I know it sucks to have the middle seat. I got my little elbow on a little piece of the armrest on where the seat back is. And I'm leaving this guy plenty of room on the armrest. But for some reason, he just puts his arm on top of my arm and leaves it there. And, I'm not homophobic. I don't, or whatever. I don't want another man's skin touching my skin, and definitely not resting there for a 2.5 hour flight. And I sat up, I looked at the guy, and I go, I don't want to feel. I go, dude, this is not going to happen. I don't want to feel your skin on my skin. And then the guy gets a little huffy and shit, but I think he was out of line. And then he's a little irritated, I'm a little irritated. We didn't say anything to each other, and we both couldn't wait to get off that plane, I'm sure. So fortunately it wasn't an incident, but it really stayed in my mind about just modern air travel. I see all these friends of mine, these famous comedians, and they got their own jets, and the guys who are opening for them getting to go on these private jets. Wow. And I know Dave Chappelle smoked cigarettes on his private jet. Man, how nice to get to that kind of level where you can go whenever you want. But nonetheless, I was thinking about when I flew back, in the morning, my flight wasn't until like 4:20 p.m. And that morning, I took my time getting ready, and that's when I was reminded of this prayer that I used to say all the time. Every day, I pray to God, please make me less of an asshole. And I don't want to be the asshole on the plane. I think I represent whatever, good manners, kindness, stand-up comedy. People who grew up in Oviedo. Just being an asshole isn't what I want to be known for. So I actually thought to myself, I said, God, give me the strength to not be irritated by anyone all day while I'm traveling. And then I did a good job. I was in a really great mood, because I killed 3 out of these 4 shows in Dallas. I felt where I was on it, and my pistols were blazing, and had that kind of pistol twirl feel afterwards. I felt so confident, so I really felt happy, and got to see some good friends in Dallas, and rock these shows at this cool little spot, this cosmopolitan area of Dallas. And I had a good flight home. Oh, the plane was 4 hours leaving. And, because I'm diamond level on Delta, I get to use the first class lounge, which, that's a great benefit, but all these airlines, there's too many people in them now. They're not really that great. And then when I went to check in at the Delta Sky Club, they told me I have 2 visits left for the rest of the year. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought for Delta, there's no limit for Diamond. Apparently, that's not the case. So, that was surprising. But again, I made a vow earlier that day. I'm not going to get upset by anything. I'm just going to be kind and cool, no matter what happens in this day. So finally, the fucking flight leaves at like 8:30 p.m., gets back to L.A. super late. It's like, gets in, it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock, get my bag, and then I walk to the Uber Lyft pickup area. And, I'm at LAX 5-6 times a week. I'm flying constantly. And so I'm using that Lyft, Uber pickup area 5-6 times a week. And so there's a bus that you can take, but from where Delta is, it's better just to walk straight there. Otherwise, the bus goes all the way around the airport, and it's really tiresome. So anyway, I get past where the LAX, the terminals end, and then there's a overpass you walk under, and then you go out into this area where there's the taxi cabs, there's Uber, and then there's Lyft. So Uber was like $10 more expensive, so boom, I hit the Lyft, and I lit a cigarette as I'm walking. I started smoking cigarettes again. I'm not proud of it, but nonetheless, I've been stressed about a few things. So, like this year, my God, I was dating this amazing woman, and her house burned to the ground in Malibu in January. And then she was living with me for a couple months, but then I don't want to go too much into her personal details, but just shit caused her to basically have kind of a meltdown. So she's been living in the south of France. We broke up in April. But when this year started, I thought, oh my God, I'm with this amazing woman. I'm happy. So that happened, the fires, and then I was on the road for like a month. I had 1 week home before I went to Europe for a month, and there was this California franchise board. Oh, that was another thing. In May, I did jury duty. I got summoned for jury duty, and people always want to get out of jury duty. And I'm not that kind of guy. I was home for all of May, so I was like, yeah, let's, maybe there'll be some jokes there. Me doing jury duty, and it was a drunk driving case. So they were getting rid of. So I was there for 3 days, and the only reason I was there for 3 days was because my last name begins with R. They started out in the names that didn't begin with A, and it took them 2 days to go through. So I'm observing everything. So they were getting rid of anyone who had strong feelings about alcohol. Anyone who had ever attended, in the questionnaire they would say, have you ever attended an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting? Or the other one that my mom goes to, the Al-Anon. So, yeah, if you've attended either of those in the last 3 years, they had asked you to leave. And the fact that my father had been killed by a drunk driver in 2009, when I said that, they couldn't get rid of me fast enough. So that was but a lot of people look at jury duty as like this huge annoyance. And I think it's our duty as citizens, like paying taxes. Why does everybody, have such a problem with paying fucking taxes? I mean, it pays for our, fire departments, police departments. It keeps the electricity on and the street lights and the roads paved, and there's just things in American society that people should be happier doing, like paying taxes and serving jury duty. So that was in May, and then I was gone for a month, come home for 1 week. The California tax people, because they have state tax in California, normally every year I have to pay a few $100. And for the first time this year, I was getting back $114. But they wanted to know how I came up with. I have a accountant guy I've been using for a few years, who's absolutely wonderful. Eddie Pepitone turned me on to this guy, and anyway, I'm on it. I file my shit every year, and they needed to see my bank statements, my credit card statements, and they needed proof of my Social Security card when I called them. So when I got home and I got the letter, I had like 1 month to comply. The letter had already been here for 2 weeks, so I had 2 weeks to comply. But really, I had 1 week before I was going to Europe for a month. And miraculously, I fucking pull this off. I go to the bank, print that shit out. I go to Kinko's, print out the credit card stuff. And then I scheduled an appointment with the Social Security office. Oh, I was talking to the woman from the California tax board, and she said, "Yeah, you need a physical Social Security card." I said, "Well, I've never in my life been asked for it. I know the number, but I don't, I've had the Social Security card since I was, since I was 16. Who knows where that, I'm a pack rat. I save shit. But anyway, I don't know where my original Social Security card is. But had to set up an appointment, and I get the friggin', it was miraculous that I pulled off all this shit, before I went to Europe for a month. So I'm just telling you, there's been a lot of annoyances by the state of California this year for me, starting with fucking Malibu burning to the ground. And, they didn't have water in the fire hydrants. Like the wealthiest neighborhood, one of the most wealthy neighborhoods in Los Angeles. Anywho, so I'm walking, I order the Lyft because it's $10 cheaper than Uber. That's where I'm at in my life, ladies and gentlemen. Please support the podcast. Go to Patreon and you can adopt a comedian or send some money to support the podcast. So anyway, I order the car, and then it's like a 3-minute walk from there to the little zones where you get the car. So as I put the phone in my back pocket, and I'm pulling my luggage with one hand, and I light a cigarette with the other, and I'm walking, and I get to the lift zone 31A, and there is a cop, and a motorcycle cop. His motorcycle's there, and he's standing, and he's actually facing me as I'm walking, and I'm thinking, oh shit, you probably can't smoke in these waiting areas. That makes sense, because there's people waiting around. So I kind of like cup the cigarette, and I'm thinking, I know the guy sees me. Kind of a pudgy, older cop. I'll leave the description at that. He wasn't in the best physical shape, considering that, he was a motorcycle cop. But anyway, so the guy turns his back. I mean, as I walk up, I'm puffing. I took a couple puffs. I see him looking at me. So I kind of put my hand down with the cig in it, and I get to the zone, and I see him turn his back. So I take a couple more puffs sneakily, and then I put the cigarette out because I was thinking, maybe you probably can't smoke, and as a courtesy. Oh, so another annoying thing, when you order these Lyfts and Ubers, sometimes it'll say 7 minutes away, and you order the car, and then it's 14 minutes away. So I ordered the car. It was 14 minutes away, and then as I get there, it had I ordered it. It was 8 minutes, and then when I hit order, it was 14 minutes. So I walked at 3 minutes to that zone 31A, see the cop, put down the cigarette. I've had a really long, stressful day traveling, and a year full of little annoyances. And it's 11 minutes until the car comes. So I'm just standing there, not smoking, the cigarette is out. And then finally the car comes, put my luggage in the trunk, and then I get in the back seat, and I close the door. And right after I close the door, the cop comes running up, and he knocked on my window. And he asked, and I actually thought I must have dropped my wallet or something, the way the way he had run over. So he asked me, he says, you need to get out of the car. I'm going to give you a fine for improper disposal of a cigarette butt. And I was like, yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. My cousin was a cop in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm from a military family. I know how you talk to cops. So everything I'm saying is yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, sir, no, sir. And then I said, couldn't you just give me a warning? And he said, A warning doesn't change behavior. I said, okay, okay, sir. And then as he's writing the ticket on top of his motorcycle, his hand was shaking. And I can see right on his chest he had like the little camera. So I'm looking at the camera and, I'm just thinking to myself, boy, is this guy an asshole. But I'm not trying to not let that show in my emotions and words. But I asked the guy, I said, why did you wait? I said, I put that cigarette out. And then it was 11 minutes until the car arrived. Why did you not? Why didn't you give me the ticket before now? Because now the Uber driver is sitting there waiting, and it was taking a little while because the cop's hand was shaking as he's writing out this fine. And he said, because I wanted to give you the chance to pick it up. Okay, sure. And I said, there's no, just for the facts of the case and the situation. I said, if you look around, sir, there are no smoking signs, and there are no trash receptacles of any kind. I mean, I spent my life at LAX, baby. And all around, they've changed it in front of the terminals. It says no smoking everywhere, and you have to walk way the fuck down to go make it to the smoking section. So I said, there's no smoking signs, and there's no trash of any kind. And he's like, anyway, this guy was such a dick. I couldn't believe it, and he was his reasoning made no sense whatsoever. And I go, okay, well, let me. He said, so you have to, in 10 days you have to go to court. I said, what will the fine be? And he goes, you'll have to find out what the fine is and see if they're going to give you community service of like picking up trash. So like literally there's not thousands, but there's hundreds of cigarette butts in this area spread out all over the floor. I don't know why this guy chose me to make an example of, to teach the lesson, but I said, okay, well, I go, let me show, I'm going to make a little video and show that there's no smoking signs or trash receptacles of any kind. So I make a little video of the area, and then I'm coming back around, and he goes, do you want me to explain to you what the fine is for your camera? And like before my camera video gets to him, I turn it off and I go, no, I have no interest in that whatsoever. I was just gathering evidence for the judge to show them that, and I'm not like a litterer. I remember when I was diving in Thailand years ago, it was so unbelievably breathtaking, and I saw like beer bottles and like old tires on the sea floor. And I made a vow then. Littering is disgusting. And many years ago, I even did a joke. It wasn't the funniest joke, but the joke was, don't litter, people. Earth is Mother Nature, and you wouldn't disrespect your mother. This was kind of the don't mess with Texas theme. I remember in Houston at the Laugh Stop years ago, they filmed these comedians doing anti-litter. They were trying to. It was for that don't mess with Texas anti-litter campaign that they had filmed comedians at the Laugh Stop, and that's where I'd come up with this. And I was trying to make the other comedians laugh. I said, what is the Earth? It's Mother Nature. And you wouldn't wipe your ass on your mother. Show Mother Nature the respect that she deserves. Don't litter, not even little things like cigarette butts. They don't help anything. Birds don't use them for tampons. So I knew they weren't going to use that joke for that little campaign, but that's genuinely how I feel. Like even when I'm in my car smoking, I don't flick the cigarette butts out the window. I have a little bottle or a can, and I put them in. So, anyway, one more little fucking annoyance about living in Los Angeles and the state of California. And I got to go to court next week for improper disposal of a cigarette butt. Boy, that cop was a real asshole. Well, I guess if I had any real sense, I would take this as a sign to stop smoking cigarettes. Yeah, I'd quit for 5 years, and then, excuse me, after I witnessed that suicide a few years ago, I was a little shaken up and started smoking again. But then I quit again a couple months ago, just for a couple weeks, and then injured myself skateboarding and just started smoking again. And then Europe was real fun to smoke in, especially Budapest, Hungary. You can smoke anywhere there. But anyway, I just got to be conscious of just not dying of cancer, as if I could push that off as long as possible. I talked about Carl LeBeau, my friend. I remember going to see him during the pandemic in Vegas, and God, not a pretty sight. Here's a fun fact for you. Do you know I have the remains, the ashes of 2 human beings in my apartment. Carl LeBeau, his family at the memorial gave me a little necklace and had a little piece of his ashes in it. And Natalie's mother, Anique, just a little tiny bit of her ashes in a little miniature vase. And she's the woman who made me fall in love with Paris and French culture. And anyway, Carl LeBeau, man, what a story. He was Sam Kinnison's best friend, and then he had a child with this woman, and then he learned years later, after he had paid child support for 18 years, that child was Sam Kinnison, his best friend, had sex with his girlfriend. Anyway, that was a real hard story. I'm sorry I brought it up, but Carl was, he remained a upbeat, fun, hilarious, good human being. And let's go back to Texas. Oh, yeah, talking about people who died. I was thinking about, since we're talking about Texas, there was this guy, Joey Walden, in Austin. He died about, 10, 15 years ago? He was an artist and he was a stand-up comedian. So here's another fun fact on Texas. Austin is home to the world's largest known bat colony in an urban area. And I read that and it reminded me, one of the first times I went to Austin, I had done mushrooms with Joey Walden, and he took me to I think it's the Congress Street Bridge at sunset. Every day at sunset, these thousands of bats come and fly underneath the bridge. It was pretty spectacular, especially being on mushrooms. And those were some of my earliest, most fun Austin, Texas experiences. The movie, I had this conversation with somebody in Dallas. I think it was one of the other comedians. I need to watch that movie, No Country for Old Men. One of the other comedians brought this up. That movie, killer flick. And it's so great, and all the people have the guns, and just incredible acting. Antonio Banderas and Jeff Bridges as the cop. But that area where Texas, like that took place in Odessa, Midland, that area. And it was about 25 years ago. There was some little gig in Odessa, and I did it. And it was in a little mini mall, and then a few doors down in this mini mall were these bars, and they had music. They were playing norteño music, and the people were doing this norteño dance. And you need to look this up on YouTube and see what this looks like. So they only do the norteño, the music and the dance in the north of Mexico and in that West Texas area where Odessa is. And like salsa dancing is all about, like when you see people salsa dancing, they're like rubbing their genitals and kind of grinding up on each other. Norteño, I would describe as the exact opposite. The two dancing partners lean their chests together, and they kind of have their gravity like pressed against their chests, and like they're kind of sticking their asses out, and they're dancing as if they were avoiding touching genitals. And then they're moving kind of fast around the dance floor, and it really looks kind of cool and fun, and silly looking, the way that people have their chests pressed against each other and dance around with their asses poking out to avoid touching the genitals. So, yeah, check out some Norteño. Odessa, Texas takes its name from Odessa. Is that Ukraine, or is it part of Russia now? I always found those interesting because I grew up in Oviedo, Florida, and we took our name from Oviedo, Spain. So I've always wanted to go to Oviedo, Spain, because of that. And I'm sure people from Odessa feel the same. Yeah, whatever. That's a detour. Hey, I got some news today, and somebody sent me this news thing. The orgy tent at the Burning Man festival collapsed today. So that's the big news. That's so funny. I just picture people in mid-stroke or suck, and then the tent collapses on them. And all that sand in your private parts. No thanks. I was at the Burning Man festival. I told you I'd never do it again. But there was one day I had a bike and I was driving around, and I drove past. This is like early afternoon. I drove past the orgy tent, and there was no one in line, and there was one bicycle parked out front. And I just thought that was like such a funny image. I just pictured one guy hanging out in there. You know, he got there early. He's like helped him set up chairs and pillows or whatever. And he's just waiting for the party to start. So I didn't go anywhere near that other than riding my bike past it. And it's interesting. Right now is that Burning Man festival, and I loved the art and the lights and the cars at night. And then for me, the most spectacular thing was the natural setting of it. The moon would rise above this mountain every day. And then at night, the stars were just so spectacular. But getting through the daytime to get to the night, oh my God, it was like 105 degrees. There's no showers, sand and dirt. They had these sandstorms that you had to have goggles with you at all times and everything. And then I was there, of course, for the year of the big storm when everybody was stuck there. But anyway, I thought that was funny. The orgy tent collapsed at Burning Man. There you go. I'm reading this book. I picked it up at a used bookstore in Hilo, Hawaii, when I was there in April. Let me just read you this highlight. Your life is your party. You get to choose how you invite people and the experiences and things that you want to let into it. It's about showing up every day with an excellent attitude, doing your best, leaning back, celebrating what is, and steadily working with the grateful expectation and belief that the universe is sending you a new, more lucrative opportunity. And then if you're looking for a partner, joyfully going about your life and being grateful that not only is the person you're seeking also seeking you, but the universe is conspiring to bring you together. Doubt is resistance. Faith is surrender. Worry is resistance. Joy is surrender. Control is resistance. Allowing is surrender. Ridicule is resistance. Believing is surrender. It's a funny title of a book. It's called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. And I like that. Your life is a party. And, you can invite who you want into it, and you can kick out whoever you want. And let me just say something I said earlier about the news isn't the news anymore. And it's really true. It's, God, just, keeping you pissed off about everything and all these little details, and just it's a battle, and I choose not to take part in it anymore. I'm not choosing sides anymore. I'm only choosing individuals. So I don't want to get worked up over any news shit. I play music most of the day, trying to keep an energetically positive attitude in my life and my comedy and all that I do. Okay, so I had this observation. This is just looking at my last little notes here before I wrap it up. All I know is this. Last century, we had a pandemic, the Spanish flu in 1919. And then in 1929, the stock market collapsed. And that set off a 10-year worldwide global economic depression. So we had a pandemic 5 years ago. So I'm just pointing out that I think we all have 5 years to make a solid plan. Okay. And the big news that I'll end this with is, hooray and hallelujah, I got my balcony back. They're painting my building. And then I had to come back from Europe. Talked about this in the last episode, how I've got 10 years worth of plants out there, and I had to cut down all these climbing plants and bring down all these trellises, and I've got 20 hummingbird nectar feeders, and I had to bring all this stuff down. And anyway, for the past week, my apartment has been full of my plants. And if you listen to the last episode, there was a cute little moment where a butterfly landed on the microphone. I want you to know that I found that butterfly dead in a corner. So, butterflies only live for a couple days. They know how precious life is. It's not to be wasted. That's why you never see butterflies at the liquor store buying malt liquor and lottery tickets. So anyway, 2 days ago, I got the green light. They had painted and they've had paper on my windows. So there was no light coming in. The place is full of plants. And yesterday at 7 a.m., they painted it the day before, and then the workers said it was done. So yesterday I got to bring all the plants back out there. I hung up the trellises, made it nicer. Got rid of this nasty AstroTurf. My brother said to me years ago, AstroTurf is un-American, which is hilarious because it was invented in Houston, Texas for the Astrodome. Hey, that's another Texas fun fact. So anyway, I got my hummingbird feeders back up and hung the Christmas lights back up, even though they're not working for some reason. I need a smarter friend to stop by and kick it, slap it with a hammer, something like that. But anyway, the paper is off my windows, and the light is coming in once again. And my green, happy plants are out there gently waving in the breeze. And the hummingbirds have returned. So, thank you, hooray and hallelujah. All right, well, that's today's episode. I'm trying to keep these coming every week and tell you what's going on in my life. And hopefully, maybe I'll be smart and quit smoking before the next episode. But be kind. Combat modern assholishness in any way that you can. And be grateful for every day. You know what I'm saying. Karate Kid.